Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. With just months to go before APEC 2025, the host city of Kyongju and neighboring Busan are racing to prepare. Beyond infrastructure upgrades and hotel expansions, both cities are framing the event as a rare opportunity to reposition themselves as global tourism destinations. Now, this comes as South Korea sees sharp rise in inbound travel fueled by K-content and shifting global tourism patterns, and as Seoul's dominance in visitor numbers continue to raise concerns over regional imbalance. As 21 economies prepare to gather under one roof, local leaders and tourism experts now face a critical challenge: how to turn this event into a sustainable long-term growth engine. For a deeper discussion on this, we invite Brian King, professor and head of hospitality at Hotel Management and Tourism at Texas A&M University. A big welcome.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요. Now, also joining us is Shin Hak-sun, assistant professor at the Department of Tourism from South Korea's Hanyang University. Good to see you, Professor.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me here again.
Thank you. Now, let's begin our discussion right away. First with Professor King. We want to start with a background. So why is hosting this global event like APEC such a meaningful opportunity for regional tourism, especially in a city like Kyongju?
So I visited Kyongju for the first time this summer, and honestly, even though I've been to Korea several times before, I was not able to pronounce the name. I had not heard of the city, and it was only when I actually visited that I started to learn a little bit more about it. So I think internationally, Gyeongju is not such a familiar word even to say. And this hosting of APEC is a very major and prominent international media event. So I think that this hosting not only gives the city the experience of all the logistics, but it also creates brand familiarity. So it's a wonderful opportunity to put this heritage city really on a global stage.
Really, that really does set the tone when a city like Kyongju gets a global stage. It's going to be a very big moment for the city as well. Now, following that, with just weeks to go, changes are already underway on the ground. Professor Shin, what kinds of tourism-related shifts are we seeing across APEC host regions, whether it's hotel bookings or shuttle operations?
Yeah, I think the changes can be categorized into tangible and intangible changes. Tangible changes primarily involve improvement to the city's overall infrastructure, including its tourism facilities. In preparation for the APEC summit, significant upgrades are being made to roadways and overall infrastructure, while key venues such as the convention center, media center, and exhibition halls are either being remodeled or newly constructed. The APEC summit is expected to attract approximately 20,000 participants. To accommodate this scale, it is estimated that up to 7,700 hotel rooms will be required per day. As a result, many accommodation facilities in Gyeongju are undergoing renovation, and some of them are being newly developed. On the intangible side, there are ongoing efforts to elevate the value of Gyeongju's tourism assets by transforming cultural heritage into experiential content and marketable tourism products. Additionally, the city is implementing intelligent transport systems and developing new cultural programs such as curated art tours. Most importantly, the successful hosting of the event is expected to foster a strong sense of civic pride among residents and significantly enhance the city's global brand image.
Right, so a lot of efforts are already being made, and it seems like we're seeing the ripple effects already. Now, since this summit is functionally shared between host city Kyongju and also nearby Busan city, it seems like collaboration is very, very important at this point. Professor Shin, how can those two cities work together to create a cohesive multi-stop experience for visitors?
Yes, It's important to understand the bigger picture behind Gyeongju hosting the APEC summit. While Gyeongju is the main host city, APEC is a large international event at the national level. So honestly, it's hard for one single city to handle everything alone. That's why support and cooperation from other major cities like Seoul, Incheon, Busan, and Jeju are very important. In fact, the leaders' meetings will be held in Gyeongju, but many related events will take place in other cities. Busan in particular plays a key supporting role because it's geographically close to Gyeongju. For example, the APEC Energy Ministerial meeting will be held in Busan this August. Also, if Gyeongju runs out of hotel rooms or transportation capacity during the main summit, some participants may stay in Busan or other cities close to Gyeongju. Obviously, APEC will bring benefits not only to Gyeongju, but also to nearby cities. And since many participants will take time to travel and explore other regions during or after the event, it's also a good chance to attract tourists and boost the local economy in places like Busan. Specifically, I think Gyeongju and Busan need to promote joint tourism programs, for example, multi-city travel packages or cultural exchange tours. Since the cities complement each other so well, we can offer visitors a more balanced and immersive experiences, something traditional, something modern, or something cultural. This kind of intercity tourism cooperation can really help reposition Southeast Korea as a powerful tourism cluster, not just a one-time event destination.
Exactly. So if they get it right, it could be a good model for other regional pairings to look forward to in the future as well. Now, this naturally brings us to APEC's core value, of course, balanced regional development. Professor King, how can this idea be applied to Korea's tourism landscape where international visitors still tend to, kind of concentrate in central Seoul?
Yes, well, let's think back to when Seoul hosted the Olympics in 1988. I think the rest of the world was not so familiar with Korea at that time, and the successful hosting really put Korea and Seoul on the map. So here we are 37 years later, and I think Gyeongju, as a regional Korean destination hosting a major international event, will do something similarly. And certainly Seoul still hosts most of the cultural institutions in Korea. But if you're going to present something that kind of embodies the best of traditional Korea and the modern side of it, Gyeongju is a really good balance. And as Professor Shin said, this event should help with southeastern Korea, with the Gyeongsang province, to just raise the awareness and to spread visitation around just through that familiarity, whether it's in long-haul markets such as the United States or more regional markets like China, Japan, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. And then people can visit via, say, cruise ship, or they can come in through Busan International Airport, or they can arrive by train. So this is a very good way of spreading tourism across the Korean peninsula.
Right, it does seem like a very important moment that can kind of shift attention to other areas as well. Now, let's also shift our discussion to content and culture as well, Professor King. Korean media and storytelling are clearly driving new types of travel demand. So we wonder now, how can places like Kyongju turn their own cultural identity into tourism appeal, especially for foreign individual travelers?
So there's a local and global dimension of this. I've been recently exploring the Hano in Jeju-do, and that Hano Phenomenon has really gone global with coverage on Apple TV and global media, and that's the story about these divers that is something quite local, but with UNESCO Cultural Heritage designation has really gone global. And I think with the amazing landscape in Gyeongju that there's a lot of storytelling that can go in there, whether it's through K-pop, contemporary, or whether it's traditional dramas from the Silla dynasty. It's the tomb complex, the Son et Lumière evening events in the locality. So I agree that storytelling is very important. And also, as Professor Shin has said, the local population, the civic engagement. There are many local stories that can be told about what it's like to live in Gyeongju and that region. So I think that the APEC summit provides a platform to move ahead with that type of storytelling.
Right. So culture really has become the new currency, and regions that know how to package it will definitely have an edge, and we'll look forward for that for Kyongju City as well. Now, looking ahead to after the summit, it seems like sustainability becomes a bigger question. Professor Shin, what strategies should host cities focus on to keep tourism both resilient and also responsible for the long run?
Yeah, I believe this APEC summit should serve as a platform to showcase the future and vision of tourism. The theme of the event, which is Building a Sustainable Tomorrow, Connect, Innovate, Prosper, clearly reflect this direction. We need to highlight what sustainable and socially responsible tourism looks like in practice. In fact, tourism can play a meaningful role in addressing major global issues such as inequality, exclusion, discrimination, and social stratification that affect not only Korea but the entire world. In my opinion, one way to approach this is through ESG-based strategies. For example, we can introduce eco-friendly tourism sites and operations, along with programs that help reduce tourist carbon footprint during the event. We can also demonstrate how the benefits of tourism can be shared with local communities, creating experiences where both residents and visitors feel included and fulfilled. It's also important to feature tourism products that are locally designed and economically circulate within the region. In this way, tourism becomes a tool for inclusive growth and community empowerment. Above all, the event should offer more than just a series of formal meetings. It should encourage participants to reflect on the future of humanity and the role of tourism in building a more sustainable and responsible world.
Right, so it seems continuous efforts to promote the city's products and also experiences would be very important. Now, this ties directly to the physical investments being made from eco-restoration projects to upgrades at HICO. Professor King, how can these types of infrastructure be turned into permanent community and tourism assets after APEC finishes?
Well, starting with HICO, the upgrading of the convention facility, this is an important, dry run. It sets, it shows the proof that a city like Gyeongju is capable of delivering something for the most demanding international and domestic visitors at a very high standard. So it becomes evidence or proof that Gyeongju can sit on the global stage and can deliver in a very professional manner. So I think the upgrade to that facility, the capability of handling these large visitor numbers is really important. As Professor Shin has mentioned, there's also a lot of upgrading to the experience for the visitor. It's not so much on the tangible, but I was very impressed by the fact that the taxi drivers have apps, translation apps. So it means that when those who are less familiar with Korean language, both spoken and written, they can get into a cab and they can engage with a local person and they can communicate clearly where they're going. That type of small scale upgrade becomes really important because we can have really great tourism infrastructure and sites, but the visitor needs to, as a human being, needs to feel comfortable that they can move around, that the language is not a barrier for them. So I see, and I observed also that the roads were being upgraded, the hotel improvements, and then the tourism industry. They're doing some of the interpretation, the logistics of bringing people in. So I see really good momentum there. And I was also impressed by the establishment of the committee in the lead up to the hosting. That brings all the stakeholders together and it creates more of a seamless experience for the visitors.
Right, so enhancing visitors' experience, be it small or big efforts, would be very important and helpful, of course. Now, speaking of Kyongju's efforts, we already know that Busan City has already hosted several APEC-related ministerials this year. Professor Shin, what role can large-scale MICE events like these play in developing regional tourism beyond just a short-term boost?
Yeah, I think large-scale MICE events like the APEC meeting can do much more than just bring short-term visitors. They can really help build a long-term tourism brand for the city. A good example is Da Nang City, Vietnam. After hosting the APEC summit in 2017, the Da Nang city gained a lot of global attention. It used that opportunity to improve its infrastructure, build high-quality hotels, and promote its beautiful attractions and culture. Since then, Da Nang has grown into one of the most popular tourist destinations in Southeast Asia, not just for leisure travelers, but also for international conferences and events. In the same way, Gyeongju and other cities in South Korea can use this APEC event to show the world what makes the city special. These events bring global leaders, media coverage, and international interest. If managed well, they can help build a strong positive image of the city that lasts well beyond the event itself. And also, as I mentioned before, these events push the city to improve transportation systems, tourism services, and local partnerships. These upgrades stay in place and support long-term tourism growth. So in short, big international events like APEC Summit help create global visibility, improve the city, and build a tourism brand.
All right. Right, definitely. We think we have a very short technical difficulty at the end of the question, but we got the gist of your answers, Professor Shin. Now, and before we conclude our discussion tonight, let's ask one more question to Professor King. When the event actually ends, the real legacy building begins, and what kind of long-term blueprint is needed to turn APEC 2025 into a lasting engine for regional tourism growth?
Well, I think an important part is you need to have whatever the planning is regionally to fit with the broader Korean and Asia Pacific. I think the plan needs to take account of the different market sources. So clearly the domestic Korean market's always going to be the most important. Then your regional markets, Hong Kong, Taiwan, China, Japan, connectivity, making sure that these markets are well catered for with language and other provision. And then you'll have long-haul markets like the US, which are important, but they don't generate the volume. So I think a plan which reaches out to the world, but is practical in that it recognizes that the national profile is the most important, and then with the regional and APEC, because the countries are participating are the key source markets, that's going to be a great starting point.
Mm-hmm. So in the end, what matters most is how APEC lives on after the summit, and it could be the start of something much bigger for South Korea's other regions as well. But we'll have to conclude our discussion here for tonight. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights, Professor King.
감사합니다.
감사합니다. And of course, Professor Shin, we really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.